There will come a moment when your name will be spoken in past tense, when the phone will stop ringing and the world will continue without you. But before that moment comes, before your soul returns to the one who created it, Allah will show you something, not through visions, not through dreams, but through the quiet transformation of your heart. You'll start to notice it before anyone else does. The world will begin to feel distant. The things that once excited you will start to lose their flavor. You'll stop craving noise. You'll stop running after approval. And deep inside, a voice not heard but felt will whisper, "You were never meant to stay here." It's subtle. You'll feel it in the way the night calls you when everyone sleeps. You'll feel it when your old desires begin to fade, and peace suddenly matters more than pleasure. It won't make sense to anyone else, but it will make perfect sense to your soul. This is not fear. This is preparation. This is Allah beginning to wean your heart off this world, so when the time comes to leave it, you'll leave with peace, not panic. You'll notice people drifting away, some by distance, some by destiny. You'll notice your tears falling more easily. You'll forgive faster. You'll pray slower. You'll start finding beauty in silence and meaning in every delay. And then one day, you'll feel it, that strange calm that settles before the storm of eternity. The same calm prophets felt before their final breath. The same calm the righteous feel before the angels arrive. It won't be sadness. It won't be fear. It'll be surrender. The kind that says, "I'm ready to meet you, Ya Allah." Every pain you survived will start to make sense. Every delay will finally look like protection. Every unanswered prayer will reveal its hidden mercy. And in that moment, you'll realize you were never losing things. You were being prepared to return home clean. That's what this video is about. Not death, but the divine whispers that come before it. The signs that Allah sends when your soul begins to awaken. The signs that tell you your journey through pain was not punishment. It was purification. So don't look away now, because if you're hearing this, if these words are finding you right now, then maybe, just maybe, your soul is being spoken to. Stay, watch till the end, because by the time this video finishes, you won't fear death anymore. You'll long for the moment when Allah finally whispers your name and says, "Come home." The world begins to feel temporary. It starts so quietly that you almost miss it. You wake up one morning, sunlight creeping through the curtains, and the first thought that crosses your mind isn't excitement, it's emptiness. The day stretches before you like it always has, yet something inside you feels strangely detached. You move through the same motions, checking your phone, scrolling through people's lives, seeing laughter, plans, success, noise, and still you feel nothing. You begin to sense that something invisible is shifting. The world that once wrapped itself around you suddenly feels thin, fragile, temporary. The conversations you used to enjoy now sound hollow. The music that once thrilled you now echoes without meaning. Even joy feels distant, like you're smiling through glass. At first, you don't understand what's happening. You think maybe you're tired. Maybe you've lost interest. Maybe you need something new, a trip, a distraction, a change. But no matter what you chase, the feeling doesn't go away. You realize the emptiness is not around you, it's within you, and it's calling for something this world can't give. That's the moment the awakening begins. It's the unseen hand of Allah gently pulling your heart away from illusions. He doesn't snatch the world from you all at once. He lets it fade slowly, so your soul can adjust to seeing truth again. You start noticing how temporary everything truly is. The things you used to fight for don't seem worth fighting for anymore. The praise of people feels cheap. The arguments feel pointless. The competition feels exhausting. You watch everyone chasing, running, proving, and you just stand there, quietly realizing that none of this can follow you to the grave. Something inside you whispers, "Why am I clinging to what was never mine?" You begin to understand that the world was never meant to last. It was only meant to teach. And the emptiness you feel isn't a punishment. It's the removal of a veil. For years, you were taught to fill your heart with everything: status, friends, beauty, validation. But now Allah is emptying it, so it can finally be filled with Him. You begin to crave peace more than pleasure. You find more joy in a quiet prayer than in a crowded celebration. You start saying no more often, not because you're cold, but because your heart is tired of pretending. The noise of the world begins to hurt your ears, and silence becomes sacred again. When you're alone, you no longer feel lonely. You feel safe, because solitude becomes a meeting place between you and the one who never leaves. The things that once made you feel small, failure, rejection, loss, no longer break you the same way, because now you see the wisdom behind them. You begin to realize that every closed door was mercy, every delay was protection, every heartbreak was redirection. Your entire way of seeing life begins to change. You used to count your worth in how much you had. Now you count it in how much peace you carry. You used to fear losing people. Now you fear losing yourself before Allah. You used to chase attention. Now you seek silence. You used to fill your schedule. Now you fill your prayers. And little by little, the heart that once felt empty starts to feel full again, not with excitement, but with clarity. You start realizing that this world is a hallway, not a home. Every step you take here is just a preparation for the next life. Every person you meet is either a lesson or a test. Every day you wake up is another chance to return to Him. The things that used to scare you change. Endings, uncertainty, now feel softer, because you understand that everything has to fade, so your soul can find its way back to where it belongs. You start letting go, gently, peacefully, completely. And every time you let go, Allah fills that space with something purer, something eternal. You notice your desires shifting. What you once begged for, if you no longer want. What you once feared losing, you begin to release willingly. You no longer dream of being seen by people. You dream of being remembered by Allah. Your ambitions change. You still work, you still live, but now your goal isn't applause, it's acceptance. You don't measure success in numbers anymore, but in peace. You realize that one moment of sincerity with Allah is worth more than a lifetime of pretending in front of people. And yet, the world keeps trying to pull you back. It throws distractions, desires, temptations your way, trying to make you forget again. But something inside you resists. It's not pride, it's awakening. You've seen too much truth to go back to sleep. You've tasted the sweetness of remembrance, and nothing else compares. There will be days when this detachment feels heavy, when your heart aches for what you've lost, when your loneliness feels unbearable. On those days, remind yourself, this pain is proof of progress. You're shedding the weight of what was never yours. You're becoming light enough to travel home. Sometimes you'll look around and wonder, why do I feel different from everyone else? Why are you so sensitive to noise, so moved by silence, so awake when others seem lost? It's because Allah is preparing you. He's choosing you for a deeper awareness. He's making your heart restless in the wrong places, so it can finally settle in the right one. That's why you feel detached. Not because you've lost something, but because your soul has outgrown its cage. You no longer belong to the world's rhythm. You're moving to a divine one. And though it's quiet, it's powerful. You'll notice your conversations changing. You start speaking less about people and more about purpose. You begin to guard your energy, because not every place deserves your light. You learn to walk away without explaining, because peace speaks louder than words. This shift confuses others. They'll say, "You've changed," and they're right, you have, because you've stopped living for them. You've stopped performing. You've stopped pretending that worldly success means happiness. Now you're living for meaning, for truth, for Allah. As this transformation deepens, you start understanding things that words can't fully express. You feel sadness, but it doesn't destroy you. You feel joy, but it doesn't intoxicate you. You walk through both with balance, because your anchor is no longer the world, it's faith. Sometimes you'll catch yourself staring at the sky, wondering what's waiting beyond it. And for the first time, the thought of meeting Allah doesn't scare you, it comforts you. You realize that this life was only ever meant to point you to the next one, and the peace you feel when you accept that truth is the most beautiful sign of awakening. When the world begins to fade from your heart, don't panic. It's a sign of elevation. You're being pulled from what's temporary to what's eternal, from chaos to calm, from illusion to light, from people's noise to Allah's whisper. And if you're feeling that whisper tonight, if your heart feels heavy and detached, know that it's not the end, it's the beginning. Allah is calling you closer. He's rewriting your desires. He's cleansing your vision, so you can finally see clearly that nothing here was ever yours. It was all a journey back to Him. So the next time you feel empty, don't fill the space with the world. Fill it with remembrance, because emptiness isn't the absence of meaning. It's the space where meaning is born. One day, you'll look back and smile at the version of you who thought this world was everything. You'll whisper, "I understand now." You'll realize that the day your heart grew tired of the world was the day Allah began to heal it. The fading of this world from your heart isn't a sign of weakness. It's the first sign of return. And when that happens, your soul will finally breathe again, knowing that it's one step closer to the peace it was created for. The nights start calling you. It begins quietly, long before you realize what's happening. You start waking up in the middle of the night for no clear reason. Your eyes open in the dark, and for a moment you just lie there, listening. The world is asleep. No cars, no voices, just silence, deep, alive, almost sacred. And in that silence, your heart feels something it can't describe. It's like the air itself is whispering your name. You turn over, trying to go back to sleep, but there's a pull inside you, gentle, but impossible to ignore. A feeling that says, "Get up." A feeling that says, "Someone is waiting for you." At first, you think it's just restlessness, maybe stress, maybe too much on your mind. But when it happens again the next night, and again the next, you start to sense that this isn't random. Something deeper is happening. The night begins to feel alive in a way the day never could. You notice how the darkness doesn't scare you anymore. It comforts you. It wraps around you like a blanket woven by peace itself. There's no noise, no expectations, no pretending. Just you and the one who never sleeps. You sit up, feeling that invisible pull grow stronger. Your chest feels heavy, but not with pain, with longing. Longing for connection, longing for peace, longing for the one who created you. The floor feels cold under your feet, the room dimly lit by the moonlight spilling through the window. And as you stand there in that stillness, you realize something powerful. For the first time all day, and you feel completely seen. That's the secret of the night. It hides the world so you can finally see the truth. When everyone else is asleep, masks off, noise gone, your soul finally gets the space to speak. And what it says is simple: I miss Allah. Tears start coming not out of sadness, but out of recognition. You realize how far you've drifted, how long you've been busy chasing everything except peace. And now, peace itself has come knocking at your door. You whisper a few words, maybe not even full sentences, just a soft Ya Allah that cracks in the middle. And the moment you do, something inside you breaks. But it's the kind of breaking that heals. Because the night is where broken hearts finally breathe. The world judges you by what you show, but Allah sees you in your tears. You don't need fancy words. You don't need to sound strong. He already knows the language of silence. So you sit there, whispering your pain in your own clumsy way. You tell him about the confusion, about the fears, about how tired you are of pretending you're okay. And you feel lighter, not because the problems are gone, but because you finally gave them to the one who can carry them. The darkness outside starts to shift. You notice the faint blue of dawn rising at the edges of the sky. Birds begin to stir. The world is waking up. But your heart feels like it just fell asleep in peace. You realize that the hours you once called lonely were never lonely at all. They were sacred appointments, moments written just for you and your Creator. Every time you woke in the middle of the night, it wasn't coincidence, it was invitation. You begin to crave those hours. You wait for them. You start sleeping earlier just to wake earlier. The bed that once kept you heavy now feels too small for your spirit. Because your heart knows there's something waiting in that silence. Something the daylight can't offer. Sometimes you wake and you don't even speak. You just sit there, breathing, feeling his nearness in the still air. And that stillness speaks louder than words. It says, you were never forgotten. People around you may not understand this change. They'll see you quiet, detached, spending time alone at night, and they'll call it sadness. But what they don't see is the peace being rebuilt inside you. They don't see the way your soul glows and the rest of the world goes dark. In those moments, the world's weight finally leaves your shoulders. You don't have to pretend to be strong anymore. You don't have to fix everything. You just have to be honest, fragile, and open. And that honesty is the purest form of worship. The night has a strange power. It exposes your heart and heals it in the same breath. It shows you your weakness, then wraps it in mercy. It reminds you that you don't need to shout to be heard. Allah hears even the tears that never fall, so you keep returning to it again and again. Even when you're tired, even when nothing makes sense, you still find yourself drawn to that quiet space, because something deep inside knows that every night you answer his call, he writes it down as love. And maybe that's why the night feels different now. You no longer fear its silence. You look forward to it, because you've learned that silence isn't empty. It's full of presence. You used to run to people when you were in pain. Now you run to the one who created those people. You used to think peace came from being understood. Now you understand that peace comes from being seen, even when you can't explain yourself. The night changes everything. It strips away distractions. It quiets your thoughts. It opens your chest and lets your soul breathe. And in that breathing, in that surrender, you realize something timeless. Allah was never far. You were just too surrounded by noise to hear him. Now, you hear him in the silence. You feel him in the stillness. You see him in the way your heart softens. Each time you turn to him, alone, unseen, unjudged, you start seeing signs everywhere. It begins so subtly that you don't even notice at first. A small coincidence, a phrase you hear at the exact moment you were thinking it, a stranger's words that answer a question you never said out loud. And you pause, because deep inside, something whispers, "That wasn't random." You shrug it off at least the first few times. But then it keeps happening, too precise, too personal, too real to be chance. And slowly, a thought begins to grow. Maybe Allah is trying to speak to you. You start to notice how perfectly timed things are. A delay that saved you from something you didn't see. A loss that forced you onto a better path. A door that closed just before disaster. You look back and realize it wasn't luck, it was protection. Your entire perspective begins to shift. You stop saying coincidence and start saying Subhanallah. You begin to see that everything, every meeting, every storm, every pause was written with precision. Not 1 second of your life was ever out of place. You notice the way your heart reacts before your mind does. How certain things feel different. Some people drain you, others calm you, and some moments feel charged with invisible meaning. You realize this is spiritual sensitivity, your soul recognizing what your eyes can't. And when your soul starts recognizing signs, life itself becomes a classroom. Every hardship becomes a message, every delay a lesson, every silence a conversation. You open the Quran and a verse jumps out like it's glowing, not because you were looking for it, but because it was looking for you. You scroll through your feed and a quote appears that answers the question you just asked Allah in your heart. You turn on a lecture randomly and the speaker says exactly what you needed to hear. That's not the internet's algorithm, that's mercy's algorithm, because when Allah wants to reach you, He doesn't need your search bar, He uses your soul. You start to see how everything is connected, how the people you meet, the delays you face, the heartbreaks that break you, they all carry pieces of a larger picture. And every time you think it's over, you realize it was only another page turning. You begin to understand that guidance doesn't always come as a voice. Sometimes it comes as a feeling, a heaviness that warns you, a peace that guides you, a strange discomfort that saves you from walking into something harmful. The world calls it instinct. Believers call it a sign. Even nature starts speaking to you. The way rain falls after you've cried. The way a bird lands near you just when you were asking for a sign of hope. The way the sky suddenly clears after a storm, and you realize Allah has been showing you His mercy in colors all along. You start paying attention differently now. When things go wrong, you don't just ask, "Why me?" You ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" You start noticing patterns. How Allah removes something and months later replaces it with something better. How He lets you fall, only to catch you in a place you never expected. Your memory starts changing too. You begin to recall moments you didn't understand back then, and suddenly they make perfect sense. You see how every no became a greater yes, how every loss led to something sacred, how every detour was divine direction. Sometimes you feel a pull to stop and look at something ordinary, a leaf, a reflection, a breeze, and somehow it makes you emotional, because in that tiny moment you see proof of how delicately Allah manages creation. Nothing is wasted, not a drop of rain, not a sigh, not a tear. Everything is part of His language, a language that hearts can hear when the world goes quiet. You start to realize that the signs were always there. You just couldn't read them before. The noise of this world made you blind to them. But once Allah removes the distractions, you begin to notice His fingerprints on everything. You see His mercy in the people who left. You see His wisdom in the plans that failed. You see His love in the waiting. And the moment you recognize this pattern, fear starts to leave you, because you finally understand nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you. You stop panicking when things fall apart, because now you know that sometimes destruction is direction. That heartbreak isn't punishment, it's redirection toward healing. That rejection isn't the end. It's Allah saying, not here, not yet, not them. And slowly, a strange peace begins to settle in your chest. The same things that used to confuse you now comfort you, because you see meaning everywhere. The world has become a living reminder. The sunrise reminds you of hope. The sunset reminds you of surrender. The night reminds you that silence is also love. You begin to feel guided in the smallest ways. When to stay quiet, when to speak, when to wait, when to move. It's not logic anymore. It's intuition fueled by faith. You notice how every time you ask Allah for something, the universe starts rearranging itself in strange ways. People leave, plans change, paths shift. And though it feels chaotic, deep down, you know, it's not falling apart. It's falling into place. Every sign pulls you closer. Every realization softens you. Every coincidence reminds you that you were never walking alone. You start trusting again, not in your own plans, but in the one writing them. The past returns to purify you. It begins with a memory. Not a random one, a heavy one. A scene from years ago suddenly plays in your mind, and you wonder, why now? You're washing dishes, walking home, lying in bed, and out of nowhere it appears. That mistake, that argument, that regret. You feel a sting in your chest, the kind of pain that once made you hide from yourself. You try to shake it off, but the memory doesn't leave. It lingers like an old visitor who refuses to go. It follows you into silence and whispers, remember? At first you think it's just guilt, your mind torturing you with what's already over. But deep down, something feels different this time. It's softer. There's no hatred in the remembering, only reflection. You realize that maybe this isn't punishment. Maybe it's purification. Maybe Allah is bringing your past back, not to hurt you, but to heal you. You start to see your old self, the one who didn't know better, the one who was lost, the one who spoke out of pain instead of patience. And instead of anger, you feel compassion. You whisper to yourself, I was just trying to survive. And for the first time, you forgive that version of you. That's when the healing begins. Because true healing doesn't start when you forget the past. It starts when you face it with mercy. You look back and realize how far you've come. The same mistake that once defined you now becomes the reason you found Allah. The same heartbreak that shattered you now becomes the door that softened your heart. The same shame that once silenced you now becomes the story that wakes others. You begin to see the divine design behind it all. How the fall was never the end, but the foundation. How the failure was never a curse, but a classroom. Every sin you repented for became a seed, and now it's growing into wisdom. Every heartbreak you cried through became a door, and now it opens to strength. Every mistake you owned became a mirror, and now it reflects humility. You start realizing that Allah never wastes pain. Not one tear, not one regret, not one sleepless night. He recycles your sorrow into guidance. Aid turns your guilt into gold. Sometimes the only way to purify the heart is to make it remember what broke it. Not to reopen wounds, but to wash them one last time. That's why certain memories return when life gets quiet. Because your soul knows there's still something to release. You may feel it as heaviness, as a lump in your throat, and as tears that come out of nowhere. That's not weakness. That's cleansing. You are not being haunted. You are being healed. Allah is allowing the past to knock, so your heart can open wider than before. You start understanding that repentance isn't a one-time act, it's a lifelong returning. Every time you remember and feel that ache, it's another chance to say, Ya Allah, I'm still sorry, and I'm still grateful. The shame begins to fade, and in its place, peace starts to bloom. You realize that what once felt like dirt on your soul was actually the soil from which your faith would grow. You stop pushing the past away. You start thanking it. Because without it, you wouldn't have learned mercy. Without it, you wouldn't have learned patience. Without it, you wouldn't have known how deeply Allah forgives. You see, when Allah wants to raise you, He doesn't always give you new blessings. He gives you new eyes to see your old story differently. He rewrites the meaning of what once broke you. That's why the same memory that once made you cry in guilt now makes you cry in gratitude, because you can finally see it for what it truly was, a door back to Him. Sometimes He lets you fall, so you can learn how to get up with dignity. Sometimes He lets you make mistakes, so you can discover the sweetness of forgiveness. Sometimes He allows pain, so you'll finally stop running from yourself and start running toward Him. And once you do, your past no longer feels like a prison. It becomes your proof. Proof that Allah's mercy can reach anywhere, even the darkest corners of who you used to be. You begin to talk to your past self, the way a parent talks to a child, with gentleness, with love. You stop saying, I hate who I was, and start saying, I understand who I was, because you realize you were never meant to stay broken. You were meant to be rebuilt. The people around you start fading away. It starts slowly. You don't notice it on day one. A reply takes longer. A plan quietly dissolves. A voice you used to hear every day becomes rare. You tell yourself, it's just life, but your heart feels the shift. Something is changing, not just outside you, inside you. The circle that once felt crowded begins to thin. The rooms you used to enter with laughter now echo with silence. You try to pull people back in. You try to revive what is fading, but the more you reach, the more it slips. It's not rejection, it's redirection. You wonder what you did wrong. You replay conversations. You search for mistakes. You say, maybe I'm too quiet now. Maybe I'm too serious. Maybe I'm not fun anymore. But a softer truth whispers, you're not broken, you're being guided. Some doors close not because you lost value, but because your value is being protected. Some distances grow not because love died, but because your soul is being given room to breathe. Not everyone can walk with the newer you. Not every voice should shape your future. There comes a time when Allah cleans your schedule without asking. He removes distractions without explaining. He empties rooms you were afraid to leave. It looks like loss. It feels like abandonment, but it's a rescue in slow motion. You start noticing patterns. The people who always needed you didn't know how to see you. The ones who loved your light didn't know how to protect it. They loved the warmth, but they didn't guard the flame. So heaven guards it, quietly, tenderly, one distance at a time. You'll feel lonely at first, like a bird who forgot how to fly with its own wings. You'll reach for your phone and find nothing to say. You'll open chats and close them again. You'll type, erase, type, erase. Not because you don't care, but because your spirit is tired of small talk. The old games don't fit you anymore. The competitions, the comparisons, the need to prove, explain, and entertain. You're done performing. You want peace more than people. You want truth more than noise. There is a secret in these quiet seasons. Your soul grows fastest when your circle is smallest. Your clarity sharpens when the room is empty. You hear guidance better when the world is muted. Silence is not a punishment. It's a workshop. You begin to learn the difference between company and connection. Company fills the room. Connection fills the heart. Company keeps you busy. Connection keeps you alive. Many people stood beside you, but very few stood with you. Some people loved who you were, but they don't recognize who you're becoming. That's okay. You are not a museum exhibit to be preserved. You are a garden meant to change with every season. There are friends who were perfect for your spring, but not meant for your winter. There are voices that helped you begin, but can't carry you to the end. Bless them, release them, carry the lesson, not the weight. You will be misunderstood. Your quiet will look like coldness. Your boundaries will look like pride. Your solitude will look like sadness. People will name your healing with their own fears. Let them. You don't owe translations for your growth. Every time you choose peace, something priceless is preserved. Your energy, your focus, your nearness to Allah. The version of you that prays with a soft heart is more important than the version of you that pleases every room. Watch how life rearranges itself when you stop chasing. Watch how the right people appear when the wrong ones no longer have your seat. Empty chairs invite new guests. Empty hours invite new guidance. Empty hands are finally free to receive. You'll notice the strangest calm, the same silence that used to scare you, starts to feel like home. You drink your tea slower. You watch the sky longer. You walk without headphones sometimes, just to hear the world breathe. This is not isolation. This is repair. You used to be everywhere, doing everything, for everyone. Now you are exactly where you are, doing one thing at a time, for the one who sees you. This is power. This is dignity. There are people you will miss dearly. Memories will knock. Old photos will ache. You will smile and cry at the same time. Let the tears come. They are proof that your heart still honors what was real. But when the tide of memory pulls you back, anchor yourself in the present. What left was meant to leave. What stays is meant to shape you. Do not chase those who are walking away. When a chapter is finished, the sentences resist your pen. Forcing a friendship that has completed its lesson turns wisdom into weight. Say thank you. Say goodbye. Say alham. No. Say I am grateful, and step forward. There is a holiness in learning to be unseen. When applause stops, sincerity starts. When spotlights turn off, intention turns on. The unseen deeds are the ones that build eternity. The quiet prayers, the hidden patience, the unposted kindness. This is where your soul becomes rich. You'll learn the art of holding people gently. Palms open, not fists closed. Loving without clinging. Caring without controlling. Wishing well without waiting at the door. Attachment exhausts. Trust releases. Not everyone who fades was an enemy. Many were blessings for a season. They held your hand when you needed balance. They reminded you to laugh when life felt heavy. They taught you what love can and cannot be. Honor them by letting them be where they now belong, in the past, with gratitude. You'll also see the quiet mercy in removed access. Some people were draining you, and you called it loyalty. Some crowds were shrinking you, and you called it belonging. Some habits were burying you, and you called it comfort. Distance is sometimes the only medicine pride will swallow. The heart that once begged to be included now begs to be protected. You pray for fewer rooms and deeper roots. You ask for a circle that knows how to sit in silence with you and still understand your language. You ask for friends who pray for you when you don't ask and correct you when you don't notice. Quality over quantity, depth over display. Notice how your energy returns when you stop explaining yourself. Notice how your creativity returns when you stop performing. Notice how your worship deepens when your phone is quiet at night. Peace is not loud. It moves like light through a closed room, changing everything without making a sound. There will be tests. A sudden coldness from someone you love. A rumor you didn't deserve. An invitation that excludes you. Breathe. Answer with dignity. Let silence defend you. Let time reveal you. Let Allah write your side of the story. You are not behind. You are being aligned. You are not unloved. You are being preserved for a purer love. You are not forgotten. You are being hidden while your roots grow. Think of a seed. It disappears under the soil before it becomes a tree. Hidden, pressed, alone. But inside that darkness, it gathers strength. It breaks open. It reaches for light. People forget the seed when they admire the shade of the tree. Let them forget. The gardener never does. You may fear that you'll end up with no one, but loneliness has two faces. One is emptiness. The other is preparation. The first steals. The second builds. When Allah empties your circle, He fills your life with purpose. You'll begin to notice the right souls arriving slowly. Quiet hearts, honest eyes, people who don't need your mask. People who love your calm more than your chaos. People who guard your name in rooms you've never entered. People who remind you of Allah without sermons. Their presence is a dua walking. Until they come, stand well in your solitude. Treat your alone time like sacred training. Let your routines become gentle rituals. Guard your morning, guard your night. Guard your heart from cheap attention. You are not starving for people. You are learning to eat from peace. Every season that subtracts also multiplies something else. Less noise, more clarity. Fewer faces, stronger faith. Smaller circle, deeper love. This is a divine equation. What leaves makes space for what's written. You don't have to be angry to let go. Release without speeches. Step back without slamming doors. Grow without announcing it. There is elegance in quiet exits. There is power in soft boundaries. Your future needs a different version of you. Someone lighter, someone clearer, someone who knows how to say no to what dims the soul. Every goodbye that hurts today, it protects a hello you haven't met yet. One day, this will all make sense. You'll look around and see the wisdom. You'll realize that what felt like abandonment was actually adoption. Your heart adopted by peace. Your time adopted by purpose. Your life adopted by meaning. Until that day, keep walking. Answer the phone less if you must. Answer your heart more. Sit by the window. Watch the sky change. Let the quiet teach you the language of calm. Let your prayers be longer than your explanations. Let your growth be between you and the one who grew you. And when it stings, because it will, place a hand on your chest and remind yourself, I am not losing people. I am losing noise. I am not becoming cold. I am becoming clear. I am not alone. I am becoming aligned. Light to the maimed of them before the round. The people around you start fading away when you are being prepared for a brighter intimacy, an intimacy with your purpose, with your peace, with your Lord. And from that intimacy, every other relationship will find its rightful place. So don't chase, don't beg, don't bargain with what is walking out. Bless what was, release what is, make room for what will be. Your future is knocking on doors that require both hands free. If you feel the pull to step back, honor it. If your chest tightens around certain rooms, listen. If your soul sighs with relief when you say no, obey. He is guiding you through feelings your mind can't yet sentence. You are not hard to love. You are hard to misuse. There's a difference. Keep it, protect it, guard it like a prayer answered in silence. And when the night is quiet and the house finally sleeps, sit with your Lord and say, I accept the rearrangement. I trust the subtraction. I welcome the protection. Then close your eyes. Rest like someone who knows what is meant for your soul will never need you to bleed to keep it. Your heart softens in unexplainable ways. It happens quietly, not with thunder, not with warning, just a shift, a softness, a sigh. You begin to feel everything more deeply than before. A child's laughter makes your eyes water. An old man's struggle touches you in ways you can't explain. You pass someone crying in silence, and for a moment their pain becomes yours. You don't understand why. You used to move through life like stone strong, guarded, unshakable. But now, every sound, every scene, every heartache seems to echo inside you. It's as if your heart has grown eyes, and for the first time, it can truly see. This is not weakness. This is awakening. When Allah decides to purify a heart, He doesn't harden it, He softens it. He melts the walls you built to survive, so love can finally flow through. You start noticing small things that never mattered before. The way sunlight filters through leaves, the way the wind moves softly through the curtains, the way people say, thank you, or forget to. The smallest acts of kindness make your throat tighten. You find yourself whispering gratitude for things you used to ignore. The warmth of your blanket, the taste of water, the fact that you can still feel. You begin to care again, not in loud, dramatic ways, in quiet, steady ones. You check on people without being asked. You forgive before apologies arrive. You give without needing anyone to see. It confuses others. They think you've changed. They're right. You have. Your heart has been washed, not by water, but by tears. Tears that fell when no one was watching. Tears that carried away bitterness until only gentleness remained. There was a time when your pain made you cruel. You spoke without thinking. You closed yourself off. You built armor out of sarcasm and silence. But Allah doesn't let His servants stay hardened for too long. He sends certain experiences that crack the shell. Sometimes it's loss. Sometimes it's love. Sometimes it's the long loneliness that follows both. And through that breaking, something divine seeps in. Mercy, compassion, understanding. Suddenly, you can't look at anyone with the same judgment anymore. You realize everyone's carrying something unseen. The angry ones are usually hurt. The proud ones are usually scared. The distant ones are usually protecting something fragile. You begin to treat people differently. You start listening instead of reacting. You start loving without demanding. You start forgiving because you finally understand that hearts are complicated, and yours was once cold too. This softness changes how you see yourself. You stop being your own enemy. You stop punishing yourself for old mistakes. You speak to yourself gently, the way you'd speak to a friend who's still learning. You start seeing your scars as proof of healing, not shame. Some nights, you cry without reason. You just feel everything at once. The weight of what you've survived, the beauty of still being here, the ache of those who never got the chance. And in those moments, you don't want to talk, you don't want to post, you just want to feel and let Allah see you as you are. Your prayers start sounding different, not rehearsed. not rushed. You talk to him like you finally know he's listening. Sometimes you don't even ask for anything. You just sit there in silence, letting your tears speak the language your tongue can't. This softness is not random. It's a sign that your soul is being refined. Allah removes the dust from your heart, so it can reflect His light again. And reflection hurts, because to shine, something inside must break open. You'll start noticing how easily your heart trembles now. When you hear a verse, a story, a reminder, you can't help but cry. Not out of fear, but recognition. You recognize yourself in those words. You recognize your journey in those stories. It's like your heart has been waiting to come home to them. People may not understand this new you. They might call you too emotional, too sensitive, too spiritual. Smile gently. They don't know the cost of peace. They don't know what it took for you to finally feel again. You used to beg for strength, and Allah gave it, but not the kind you imagined. He didn't make you tougher. He made you softer, because true strength isn't in the fists. It's in the forgiveness. Softness is not fragility. It's power that doesn't need to prove itself. It's the courage to stay kind in a world that rewards cruelty. It's the ability to still pray for others, while bleeding quietly inside. Every act of mercy you give adds light to your heart, and that light changes everything. It makes you see beauty in places you used to overlook. It makes you feel gratitude even in grief. It makes you love Allah, not only for the gifts He gives, but for the lessons He hides within loss. Sometimes you'll notice your heart breaking again, not because of sin, but because of compassion. You'll watch someone struggling, and your chest will ache. That's Allah expanding your empathy. He's teaching you to love His creation, the way He loves you endlessly, even when you don't deserve it. You begin to pray for people who hurt you, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom, because you've learned that bitterness burns you first. Forgiveness, however, frees you. You stop needing revenge. You stop needing to win. You start needing peace, and that peace becomes addictive. You realize how much energy hatred took from you, how much time anger stole. Now you use that same energy to heal. You replace gossip with prayer. You replace resentment with reflection. You replace blame with gratitude. Every softening has a cost. You'll lose parts of yourself that were built to protect your pain. The sarcasm, the sharpness, the distance, they will fade one by one, and what remains will be raw, pure, and real. At first, this will scare you. You'll feel exposed, vulnerable, too open, but slowly you'll realize nothing real can be lost by being seen. Only illusions disappear in the light. This new heart you're growing is not meant for this world alone. It's being prepared for eternity. A heart that knows mercy here will recognize paradise easily there. You'll start valuing different things now. Not the loud, but the sincere. Not the flawless, but the kind. Not the beautiful faces, but the beautiful intentions behind them. You'll crave souls that speak truth, not tongues that speak loudly. Every prayer, every tear, every act of unseen kindness is shaping that heart, polishing it, purifying it, making it shine quietly in a world that confuses noise with worth. This softening is your miracle. You may not see it, but heaven is watching it unfold. You stop fearing death. It begins as a whisper, a thought you used to push away. You hear the word death, and your chest tightens. Your mind races to change the subject. But then, one day, the fear starts to fade, not because you've grown careless, but because you've grown conscious. You realize you've been walking beside death your whole life, Every breath was a tiny goodbye. Every sunrise, another reminder that time is borrowed. And instead of running from it, you start to see its mercy. You used to picture it as darkness, a closing of doors, a vanishing. Now you begin to feel that maybe it's light, a doorway, not a wall. Something changes inside you. You stop asking, how long do I have left? And start asking, what am I doing with the time I've been given? The panic softens into purpose. You notice how fragile everything is. The people you love, the moments you thought would last forever, they slip through your hands like sand. But instead of grieving that fragility, you start treasuring it. You hug longer. You listen closer. You say, I love you while you still can. Fear begins to lose its voice because you realize death doesn't end relationships built on sincerity. It just changes where the conversation happens. You'll speak through prayers instead of phone calls. You'll meet in dreams instead of streets. You'll wait at gates instead of doorways. Every loss teaches you this truth a little more. When someone you love returns to Allah, your heart breaks open, but something sacred slips inside that space. A calm acceptance, a strange gratitude, a knowing that love never really dies. It only changes form. You start to feel it even in nature. How the leaves fall, yet the tree stands. How the night takes the sun, yet the sun always rises again. You see life repeating the same promise. Every ending hides a beginning. You remember all the times you almost died, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, when you thought you'd never recover. And you realize you already lived through so many little deaths. Each one stripped you of something false and gave you something real. If those didn't destroy you, why should the final one terrify you? Death begins to feel familiar, like an old friend you were warned about, but who turns out gentler than everyone said. You start cleaning your heart instead of your calendar. You start preparing your soul instead of your suitcase. You understand that the real departure is not when the body leaves the earth. It's when the heart leaves the truth. You find beauty in preparation. Writing your will feels peaceful, like packing for a long-awaited journey. You give away clothes, books, memories, and instead of emptiness, you feel light. You imagine yourself walking through that final night, with nothing but faith folded neatly in your hands. Some people around you still panic at the word death. They call it morbid when you mention it. They tell you to think positive. But you've discovered that thinking of death is the most positive thing you've ever done, because it makes every second sacred. You no longer postpone apologies. You no longer delay gratitude. You no longer treat tomorrow as promised. Every breath feels like borrowed treasure. Every prayer feels like rehearsal for meeting the one who gave it. You begin to smile more, not the loud social smile, but the quiet one that rises when peace sits in your chest. You catch yourself looking at the sky often, wondering what it will be like to finally see the unseen. You realize death isn't coming to you. It's coming for you, like a mother coming to collect her child from school. The day will come when this classroom closes, and you'll run into the arms of the one who sent you here. You stop measuring life by length and start measuring it by depth. One sincere prayer outweighs 1,000 distracted years. One act of mercy outlives 1,000,000 followers. You start wanting legacy, not attention. When illness visits, you no longer curse it. You treat it like a messenger reminding you, don't forget where you're headed. You take care of your body, but you invest more in your soul. You no longer fear the grave. You decorate it with deeds while you're still alive. Every secret kindness is a flower you'll find blooming there. Every forgiven offense is light that will guide you through it. Sometimes, when you stand at a funeral, you don't cry from fear anymore. You cry from recognition. You whisper, soon, not as a threat, but as a promise. Because now you understand, death is not the opposite of life. It's part of it. The real tragedy isn't dying. It's living without knowing why you're alive. You start focusing less on how you'll die, and more on how you'll live until then. You polish your intentions. You mend your relationships. You stop waiting for someday. There's peace in surrender, the kind that can't be taught, only felt. When fear of death leaves, fear of life leaves with it. You start taking risks that matter. You speak truth even if your voice shakes. You love fully, even if it ends. You pray deeply, even if no one sees. The more you remember death, the more alive you become. You taste food differently. You notice how air feels against your skin. You listen to the sound of rain like it's a sermon. You live like someone who knows this might be the last time. And that awareness fills everything with color. You no longer see cemeteries as sad places. They're gardens of waiting. Every name carved in stone is a story completed. You walk among them and whisper, "You went first, I'll follow soon." And the fear that once chilled you now comforts you like a blanket of truth. You know that angels don't come as strangers. They come as escorts. They come as fulfillment of a lifelong promise, that every soul will return to the one who loved it first. You begin to talk to Allah more often about that day. You say, "When you call me, let me be ready. Let my final breath be peaceful. Let my last thought be of you." And these prayers don't make you sad. They make you alive. Because once you stop fearing death, you stop wasting life. You stop numbing yourself with noise. You stop chasing what doesn't last. You start loving what never dies. Truth, kindness, sincerity. You find courage in the thought of meeting him. Imagine that moment, the world fading, the angels smiling, the veil lifting, and you seeing the face of mercy itself. How could that be frightening? How could reunion be loss? You still feel pain when others go before you. You still grieve. You still miss. But now your grief carries faith. You tell yourself, they just crossed the bridge first. And every act of goodness you do feels like sending them gifts across the veil. Night after night, your perspective widens. You start planning, not just for years, but for forever. You treat your words as seeds that will echo in eternity. You handle hearts as if you'll meet them again, because you will. Death loses its teeth when you taste purpose. It can no longer bite you with fear. It only invites you to live cleaner, lighter, truer. And when that day finally comes, the day your eyes close here and open there, you'll whisper, not with terror but with relief, "I knew this was home all along." Before the soul returns, it happens in silence. The world doesn't notice. No thunder, no flash, just a quiet stillness that begins to surround you. You feel lighter, as if the noise of life is dimming one sound at a time. Something inside starts to loosen, gently, peacefully, almost lovingly. You can't explain it, only feel it. It's not sadness. It's not fear. It's a peace so deep it almost feels like you've been here before. The body is still living, but the soul, it's already halfway home. You start seeing your life differently. All the rushing, all the proving, all the chasing. It begins to look small, like waves returning to the shore. You realize you spent years running after shadows, while the light was always behind you. Then the whisper comes, not from a voice outside, but from somewhere between your ribs and your soul. It doesn't shout, it glows. It says, "Be still. You've done enough. You're coming home soon." You freeze, not in fear, but in awe. You understand that this world was never meant to hold you forever. It was only a bridge, and you have crossed most of it without even realizing. You start to remember things your heart always knew. That peace doesn't come from control. That love doesn't come from ownership. That happiness doesn't come from having. It comes from returning. In the quiet moments, your soul begins to speak in ways your tongue never could. You sit by the window, and every breeze feels like a message. Every sunset feels like a reminder. Every heartbeat feels like a countdown to reunion. The fear of dying fades, replaced by a strange excitement. You begin to imagine what it will be like. That first moment beyond the veil, and that first sight of mercy not hidden by time. You start forgiving faster. Not because you've forgotten, but because nothing feels worth carrying anymore. Grudges feel heavy. Pride feels pointless. You start cleaning your heart the way one cleans a home before a guest arrives. You speak softer. You move slower. You choose silence over winning, kindness over being right. You realize victory was never about being above others. It was always about being at peace with yourself. And somewhere deep in that calm, you begin to feel it. The presence that was always there. The one who never left you, not even in your darkest nights. You start seeing how he was in everything. In the heartbreaks that humbled you, in the delays that protected you, in the emptiness that drew you closer. It all makes sense now. You remember how you once begged for things that didn't last. You cried for doors that were never meant to open. You fought for people who were only lessons in disguise. And now, standing in this stillness, and you whisper, "Thank you for not giving me what I wanted, because if you had received everything you asked for, you might never have found what you truly needed." Him. The world feels softer now. The same streets, the same walls, the same air. But it's as though everything is wrapped in meaning. You see blessings where you once saw burdens. You see signs where you once saw coincidences. You see mercy even in the endings. It's like your soul has been polished clean, and now it reflects light instead of chasing it. You feel gratitude for no reason. You smile at strangers without effort. You cry without shame. You exist without needing to explain. At night, when everyone sleeps, you find yourself awake, not restless, but aware. You sit in the dim glow of the world and realize how temporary everything truly is. Your name, your possessions, your stories, they'll all fade. But what you built in silence, what you carried in sincerity, what you whispered in sujood, those things will follow you forever. You start to sense your soul preparing. It's not afraid. It's peaceful, like a traveler folding clothes before a journey. Your heart begins to fold attachments, one by one. It says goodbye not in sorrow, but in gratitude. Every pain now looks like polishing. Every delay looks like design. Every loss looks like love. You start to realize the secret behind every unanswered prayer. That silence itself was an answer. That waiting itself was a form of mercy. You walk differently now. You carry light instead of luggage. You choose moments over milestones. You understand that life was never about reaching everything. It was about reaching the one who gave it. And just when you think your heart can't hold any more peace, the whisper deepens. It becomes clearer, closer. Your time is coming, it says. But don't be afraid. You'll be greeted, not forgotten. You close your eyes, and for a second, you can almost feel the other side. Not darkness, not void, but warmth. A field without pain, a morning without end. The whisper continues. You won't need to explain yourself there. You won't need to hide your tears. Everything you carried will be translated into light. And your heart responds with surrender. You no longer fight to hold on. You no longer beg for what's leaving. You simply whisper back, I'm ready when you are. It's not that you want death. You simply want to meet peace face to face. You want to see the one you spoke to in every prayer. You want to finally rest in the arms of understanding. As you go about your days, you see reminders everywhere. A funeral passing, a graveyard blooming with flowers, a child being born. You realize it's all the same cycle, arriving, learning, returning. And in that awareness, you begin to live more gently. You don't rush anymore. You don't argue as much. You let go faster. Because you've realized you're not here to win arguments. You're here to prepare your soul for its final flight. There's beauty in living with awareness of departure. You love deeper, forgive quicker, pray slower. You taste life fully because you know you won't always have it. Every time you wake up, you whisper, thanks, not just for another day, but for another chance to make peace with it. And when you go to sleep, you do it softly, like a child, trusting that someone greater is watching over them through the night. You realize that dying isn't the end. It's the moment your soul finally remembers what it was always meant to be. One day, the world will continue without you. Your footsteps will fade. Your voice will be remembered in echoes. And the same people who used to call your name will whisper it in prayer. But before that day comes, you have this moment, this breath, this heartbeat, still moving, still forgiven, still seen. You were never just a body passing through the earth. You were a soul passing through a test. Every tear, every ache, every delay. This was Allah teaching you how to let go of what was never meant to last. And now, look at you, still standing after everything that tried to break you. Still breathing after every night you thought you wouldn't make it. That is proof. Proof that Allah never left you, even when you left yourself. So tonight, don't rush. Don't scroll away. Just sit for a moment in silence. Feel your heartbeat. It's not random. It's permission. Another chance to return before you're returned. The same Allah who watched you sin is the same one waiting to forgive you. The same Allah who took people away is the same one preparing better ones to walk beside you. The same Allah who allowed the storm is the same one who will guide you home through its calm. So cry if you must. Let your soul exhale. Let the weight leave your shoulders, because you were never forgotten. You were being written into something sacred. And when the time comes, when your eyes close for the last time, may your final breath leave your lips in peace. May your last words be calm, not fear. May the angels greet you with the same tenderness you were once too tired to find in this world. And may you hear the softest whisper, the one your heart was created to wait for, when Allah says, "You're home now." Until that day, live gently, forgive deeply, pray sincerely, and remember, what you build in silence will speak louder than your name ever will.